こんにちは。ギャム vs ウェイボー。ファーストゲーム。中国の6位、シャオフいます。メンバーだけ見たらウェイボーも結構強そうなんだけどね。で、ギャムは、PCS の4位かな。もともとは、マイナーリージョンだったからね、去年まで。ギャム。ベトナムのマイナーだったので、PCS4 位とはいえ、中国は全体的にレベルが高いですから。どうでしょうか。勝てるのかな、ギャムが。ブリース、ティアン、シャオフ、ライト、クリスプ。メンバーはね、まあ強そうな感じはするけど。その日のティアンはもうなんかその日調子よかったら最強だし、そうじゃなかったらトロロしてるしっていう。割とコインフリップなイメージがある。ナーフはされたけども、ファーストピック、コーキー。コーキーの9のベースダメージが削られて、レシオンもちょっと削られたか。それでも全然強そうではあったけど、コーキー。ファーストピックでいく。PCS、なんか割とメタが独自な気はするんだよな、ピックバンとかも。コーキー先出しは初めて見た。オリアナ・ジャーバン。もうクソ強そう。goes back to the conversation we had in the previous series, which was ease of execution, right? Just creating a game plan that can work in a variety of different situations. You don't need every bit of gold in the entire game. You don't need to be up 2k in order to make Oriana Jarvan work. You can be in a pretty new state and still feel comfortable playing with that, kind of duo. So I love that early. I think especially for TN to be able to have that playmaking ability on the Jarvan. But it will be the Poppy as the answer. I think Poppy's incredibly strong still in the meta. I think her kit really does a lot to kind of balance out some of the weaknesses of a lot of the strong champions. And so this will make a lot of sense, I assume, going to Levi here. Yeah, so 明るい。オリアンに対して明るい。なるほど。コーキーファーストピックが本当によくわかんないな。アジールも自分たちでギャンをバンしてんのか。セイヨン。あかりポッピーじゃちょっと火力がね、序盤はあるかもしれないけど、採用を溶かす火力がねえか。I will say the only kind of alternative point there. I completely agree with you, by the way, Slayer. I think that the draft right now very much favors what Weibo is doing on the red side. ウェイボはボトム何ピックしてもいいからな、これ。ダンサイオンのカウンター、アンベッサバン。サイオンやるんだったらワンチャントランドルバンもあり。ポッピーがまあほぼほぼジャングルか。Weibo are allowed to play, but for now it's just going to be the bands coming out. Mbessa as a band coming through. You don't want to go into an Mbessa as a Scion. That's basically just giving Mbessa a free early game. Unfortunately, with these player cams, it's just they're never in the spot that you want them to be in. They're always either a little too close, a little too high. They're just never where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, guys, I'm gonna cast from right here. By the way, the entire time.
Yunara ban. Bro,
why back up? This isn't Counter-Strike. This is like Counter-Strike players. It reminds me of Counter-Strike players where they're just like literally like monitors, right? They literally play right. They literally sniff their monitor. That's what Light's gonna be the vibes. All right, bans though. Light was the target of the second round of bans. I can't believe he drew a Caitlyn ban. That was out of left field to me. But the Yunara makes a bit of sense nonetheless here.
マジで何取ってもおかしくないんだよな。ブラーム。まあ相手が明るいいるしな。ポッピーのウルトも避けたいから、ブリンクはあった方が良さそう。でも敵の構成見て、これで別に相手がエンゲージ超強くなかったらジンクスとか言ってもいいだろうし。 Right now, I think GAM actually do need like an actual carry on the top side, and that's where
ロックス
I like this for Kiaya. He's always been a really good agent.
あったな、カーサスジャングルで
Some fun instances.
中国チーム倒すや
I don't
つ
really want to talk about hovers too much. I don't think it's impossible for them to flex this Poppy down into the support position. I
ニダリー
that as a matchup overall.
リリー相手硬いからニダリーはちょっと
Definitely quite a
序盤でスノーボールしきれなかったらまず勝てない
Lilia lock.
Yeah, I think Lilia is a
Lilia.
great answer into the beefy points
Yeah.
for Weibo. Good luck chasing around Lilia with passive. That's where we're at here. And like you talked about,
リリアだからバフされたっけ
stage as a carry potential, right? It is
されてるね
Kiaya and Levi that are
25.19 このパッチで
ton of lifting if this game doesn't get out of
ウルトのダメージが上がってクールダウンも10秒短くなってる
You would imagine Kiaya and Levi are in a really good spot, but I still think Weibo have come away with a very clear draft. You said it again. We're gonna keep preaching it here, Cayman. Ease of execution. Scion J4 Oriana, pretty simple. Light Crisp lane. Lucian Braum lane for Light Crisp. Pretty straightforward here for
なんかソロ級の
Yep, it is
キャリー力ありそうな構成ではあるけどギャムが
their own individual
シナジーがあるかっていうとちょっと謎だな
of the Aatrox Lilia.
our first look at it.
ハローこんにちはギャム VS ウェイボ
Blue
ファースト
side.
ゲーム
Here we
賭けあるか
Final series of the night here. It will be all of Group A having played a match once we are all done and set here. And it's going to be Weibo. They're looking to make quick work of the LCP to maybe try and reestablish that, hey guys, listen, the LPL does have a shot against the LCK teams. This is not like Worlds. This is not like all those debates you see run rampant on Reddit. And a good way to do that for Weibo, maybe help lift up the spirits of JSG fans, is take care of business against GAM and
ルシアンブラームレベル1強いブラームがレベル1めちゃくちゃ強い一旦サポートの HP をめちゃくちゃ削ってスタートポッピーここでリコールしなきゃいけないけどリコールするとジャングルも守れないし経験値も落とす
Already a lane that I think is very much in favor
あ
of
これサイオンが盗むの超強いからチェックしたのでかいな
Breathe even sticking around to make this
これちっちゃいの全部食われる可能性あった
Lilia to be able to counter jungle this out, but Breathe is sacrificing a lot. See how
これもうスキルを回してねえやワンチャン取られるからあ一応2レベルにはなったサイオン連戦捨てすぎだろジャーバン敵のジャングルからスタートしてサイオン経験値落とすよこのマッチアップ最近サイオンが序盤の主導権握るんだけどねこれジャーバンがチキン食ってレッド食ってえ What? リーシュまで What? リヴァイ兵長俺が知ってるリヴァイ兵長じゃない何これ Oh my god サイオンにソロキルソロ級だったらリリアブチギレて抜けてるんですけどティアン来た 2019G2 を唯一倒したチーム世界大会優勝経験ありティアンヤンこそファッキンギャップしてたエートロが来るエートロが来てくれてるすごいジャバン戻ってくるよまあさすがにサイオンがウェーブ来なきゃいけねえからあそこまではいけないなでもサイオンがリリアを倒したのでリリアはこれ食い物がないからねボトムのキャンプチキンとレッド食われて敵のジャングルもチキンしか盗めてなくてカニが食えなくねえかリリア
It makes for fun game states, something we haven't seen all that much of, something like this, where I think both teams end up equalizing out in relatively, free effort, but certainly not a game state that I think is all that bad for either team. Weibo certainly in a better spot because of that first blood going over to Breathe, but, I think Levi's more in this game than we probably expected him to be after the death.
ウェーブフリーズは完了
corral all the minions, but he does save a decent wave state for Breathe and now TP down into. and they're going to get the Lucian Braum into the 1v2 matchup to try and slow the Aatrox down. Good little macro rotation on the map there from Weibo. They should be able to accelerate their lead a bit.
サップ早いな。
Well, maybe allow TN to... Okay, how is TN a level down to Levi? How has that ever happened?
コウキもそれについてきます。
TN hasn't done any of his bot lane camps. Am I crazy or what?
No, I truly think that we have played 7D chess and gotten ourselves stuck in the time continuum here. As TN is crisp now, could be in some danger.
All right. Shield goes down. TN is right here. Chris still flashes instead of dashing to his ally. We're warming up. We're warming up. Okay, listen. Both these teams haven't played a lot of competitive league in a bit, guys. Let's give them some grace in the chat. Let's be nice.
Yeah, I think we're gonna need some grace after this early game. Hopefully this ends up turning around. You can even see it on the faces of the players. Certainly one of those games. We have a top lane fight going on.
これソロキル?
Kiai's dead.
He's just dead.
Kiai, oh, good time to flash. Don't turn back. Don't turn back. Don't turn. Okay, all right. Whew. Nobody died.
Oh my God, I'm freaking out over here. Kiai almost threw away his own early lead, which would honestly at this point just be dramatic in terms of how things are going down. You know, you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, still shame on you. Fool me 8 times, I gotta start learning at this point that, you know, things are just gonna be.
Why did we jump to 8? What happened to
Slayer?
What happened to 3 through 7?
3 through 7 happened all in the previous series, where I've been conditioned now to believe in what is going to happen. And at this point, really the question is, who's going to be able to pressure these objectives? There we go. I'm back on track. Mountain Dragon has spawned here.
まあリリアが育たないとね、この試合は硬いからな、ブラウンもサイオンも。おっとお互い6になる。
Okay, nice man. Enjoy your healing, I guess. I'm just gonna keep farming. Good old classic game of Ultimate Chicken.
This is the dream for Sion.
ジャーバンが来たら死ぬけど。
For free or in lane, which is never really ideal to do.
ジャーバンはドラゴン触ります。
Generate that early lead. Luckily, Kiaya is doing a good job of actually getting that lead in terms of the CS advantage, but because of that free kill, Bramble's been completed, and now you can't really deal with the Sion 1v1 in the lane. TN, though, is going to be starting up on that Mountain Dragon. Once again, a pretty early take, especially for LPL team standards. We usually see LPL teams prioritize grubs a lot more than the Herald, or than the Dragon, I should say. And so, definitely interesting, but still 1 minute on those grubs, so it will be the Dragon taken.
Yeah, a great call, team. I was going to point myself. That might be the earliest Dragon I've seen from an LPL team in months. So Tian gobbles that one up and is once again saying, "Hey Levi, I'm just gonna be a bit of a nuisance." Was hoping.
リリアがね、ブラーム相手だから、まあ CC はブラームとサイオンくらいで、まずリリアを食らわないから、リリアが参ればいいけど。ジャーバンのウルトに囲まれたらリリアも超えられないからな。リリアがフラッシュ Q でスリープ与えて壁ドンからルシアン捕まえあかりがグループしてるコーキーがトップに行ったのでこれリリアがフラッシュないぞあーコーキーがトップに戻ってた挟もうとしたけどコーキーが挟めないからトップに戻って3対3になってリリアフラッシュインでウルト使ったから今度は逃げられないThey do a really good job of putting themselves in a position to utilize that Lilia Poppy combination that can be so difficult to play into. The problem is they have to burn all of that just to kill Light, and all of a sudden you don't really have a lot of ways to deal with XIAOHU and with TN. ルシアン捕まえたんだけどもったいないね。キルは取ったはずなのに3グラブ全部取られちゃった。More specifically, take that away from the Aatrox and the Akali that are already going to have at least a little bit of pressure on their own.
Always a win when you get the first 2 neutrals of the game, especially taking those off of the Aatrox comp. It's going to try and threaten Sion in the side lanes constantly. Pretty big here for Weibo, who are starting to settle into their classic cruise control out of the early game by this point. Got decently significant farm leads. I also want to shout out Mr. Suspect early game mid laner XIAOHU all year. He's going to be up multiple waves over RS by this point and going to be able to TP right back to continue pushing that issue.
Yeah, I mean, XIAOHU, he has the reputation for not being the most consistent of laners, but when he figures it out, when he gets a matchup that he likes, he takes full advantage of it. I generally think that with the two junglers available in this game, this matchup is pretty neutral. So to see this lead so heavily taken by XIAOHU and by Weibo Gaming is certainly impressive. Roa now completed for that Orianna. Shockwave will be up in 5 seconds as well. That's a very
リリアがな、ちょっとファームが
going to be a game where that Orianna can be quite
遅れてるから。
if we do end up even just lasting another 10 minutes or so.
And I'm curious to see if they explore. We talk about
どう勝つんだろう、ギャム。
a lot of these combos, but I'd like to see, you know, a good old Shockwave Cataclysm onto Levi. This Lilia without flash is a real true threat, and I think the more you put down Levi and Kia in the early to mid game, the more you can maybe cover for some antics that stall this game out later, as they'll be the true threats. But the Glacial Fish are
これはでも待ち伏せしてるよ、リリアが。ジャーバンが囲って、でもこれ長く戦ったらリリアが足が速くて、ジャーバンの次のスキル避けたら勝つ。ジャーバンが当てられるか。次これ EQ 持ってるよ。止める。おお、待ち伏せてたところにちょうど来た相手。
Really well played by GAM. Even Artemis, who ends up falling in that fight, does so much damage before he ends up dying, living on a sliver of health throughout all of that. This is exactly what I was talking about in draft. Why
PCS やっぱ強いのかこれ。
so much as an answer to Jarvan, because it's really difficult for J4 to actually play as aggressive as maybe he wants to, because the safety net
リリア触っちゃった。
not able to just flag and drag your way out of fights.
これルシアがマイブリンクしたんだよね多分。
It just makes things a lot more difficult. Chris wants to go for this.
OK。
gets bursted down. The moment that Levi ends up joining this play becomes difficult. Look at how long
後期の W も食らってマイブリンクイン。
Crisp's health bar and makes this a free 2v1.
ルシアの動き謎だったの。
At this point, TN just doesn't have the damage to be able to do anything. He tries to flag and drag out, but again, Elio with a fantastic play to make sure that that is not possible. Even gets him before he gets over the wall as well. Can be a little bit tricky there with the interaction timing. So just very well played with GAM all around. And they have a pretty huge gold lead now, 1K, and it's pretty well spread out.
Yeah, they got Levi back in control.
なんかスケールをするのかなと思ったけど、ウェーブが戦いを仕掛けてやられちゃったね。
600 right now over the struggling light. We highlighted bottom lane was a big pain point.
後期トリフォ出た。
They made the switch over to Crisp going into split 3 and once again showing signs of a slow and just not comfortable start from this bottom lane that the LCP is happy to take advantage of, as we saw many LPL teams do in the latest split.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, right? Like Crisp is going to have some trouble this game, I think, on the Braum, as long as he's not able to, you know, live. I think he's got to start getting some tank stats underneath him.
Analysis?
But yes, you know, that's why they paid me the big bucks. But yeah, what I would say what GAM is really afraid of in this game is one bad combination. Again, that's the problem with playing into Jarvan Orianna and giving that over on red side, is that it really just takes one fight.
サイオントップでキルは取ったんだけど CS はかなりロスしてたから。あとエイトロが有利マッチアップだしな、最序盤以外は。サイオンが辛そうですね。
I think that's the obvious choice is Dragon right now. You have Herald about 1:45 away, and so making sure to pressure that Ocean Dragon as much as you can if you're GAM is the best thing you can do. You can't allow Weibo to have it for free, especially because your power spikes are, you know, definitely a little bit delayed. Akali's still not on that first item, neither is the Aatrox, and so you don't really want to take a full out fight here if you can help it.
Levi scouting with a little bit of a bowling ball, not going to find the mark on any pins. Kia actually cancels the back here to try and threaten a turret. Colin coming down here from light a bit early.
明かりが入る
RS jumping in and maybe dissuade Tien. He still gets the dragon. RS into the shroud. Keeper's word comes out from Elio. It's going to boot out the Braum.
フラッシュして。
The wall force. RS to flash over his own red buff wall.
でもサイオンが来たんだったらエイトロックスがフリーでタワーを。あ、タープレートこれ取れないのか。でもまあタワーは取れそう。 2ドルは取られたけど別にこれ2ダラだからね。2個までは全然リターンがあるなら捨てたっていいし。3グラブ持ってるんで4人で叩いてタワーを狙うが、エートロックスはテレポートでカバー。
Something softens the blow for Weibo. They don't. First brick didn't really matter because of Weibo grabbing first grubs, first Drake. When they grab that Ocean Dragon, they actually already got Feats of Warfare. So those got dusted off pretty quickly before plates even dropped. A little bit of extra gold that Weibo get right. They are still down 2K, but getting that boost on your boots cuts down in that gold just a little bit. Got to keep in mind going forward.
最近出てくるエートロックスもなんか無双してるイメージあるよね。回復がえぐいんだこいつ、ドスカイとウルトの相性がいいし。ベタ足でプラス射程の短いルシアン・オリアナでこのエートロ・リリア・アカリの突進を耐えれるか。ブラムフラッシュ余計、ブリンクを狙ったウルト、うまいね。エートロが挟みに来てる。それを警戒してウェイボは引く。エートロックスを狙ってサイオンがウルトを狙うが、エートロフラッシュアウト。
Yeah, just a huge disengage coming in from Weibo that gives them full control over the river. That's the power of Sion. Despite the fact that he's 1k gold down, it does not matter. He can still impact the fight a ton. Want to make a big point there that Tian actually stays full health throughout all of that, which is really huge for a potential turn. So, well played by everybody involved, but definitely ends up favoring Weibo, and they should have full tempo now to try and take this Rift Herald. They are going to start it up. I doubt there's going to be a contest over this.
Nope, I see Levi cruising towards his bot camp, so good little scuffle for Weibo to grab 4 for 4 out of neutral objectives, by the way. They've gotten 3 grubs, Rift Herald, first 2 dragons. The trade here for GAM is that Kiaya is going to grab the second turret, so no turrets being knocked down from Weibo. I think with grubs on the Herald, that shouldn't be a problem for them much longer.
Yeah, it's definitely...
エートロ去ってんね。
Again, gold onto Aatrox is good gold at this point in the game, but you can't keep making trades like this throughout the entire game and just hope that eventually Aatrox will be strong enough. You do eventually have to pull the trigger on all of that gold.
ブラム初手ミカエルスリープ用か。
Artemis is still up quite a bit in terms of CS and in terms of gold right now. It's all really just about can the Corki play the game against the Jarvan Orianna combo.
Talking items as we're getting first items coming through for virtually everybody. We already saw in a Kali game earlier today, K-Man, with the Rocket Belt start, but Aris showing off maybe the LCP meta Storm Surge Rush. You don't normally see this from a Kali players on the competitive scene.
Yeah, I actually really like this in this game. I think Storm Surge is gonna give you a lot more just overall power at this point in the game, and that's what you kind of need right now. You need to be able to stabilize this game state because you do have such a big lead. You're not being counted upon to be this 1v9 machine where you need Rocket Belt for mobility. If you can get on one target, you can probably do enough to be able to create enough for Lilia and Corki and Aatrox to take over. I think overall, just comp-wise, this does make a lot of sense in my opinion. So we'll see if it ends up being effective. If the Akali just ends up not having the mobility, then we'll blame itemization, I guess.
Oh, crisp. Lucky to not get pulled back.
ギャムはゴールドは勝ってるけどドラゴン止めないとね。フラッシュしてノックアップ当てるが、あかりはこれ普通に避けれそう。壁越えられなかった。ジャーバンが来る前に、しかもこれポッピー視界外からウルトで吹っ飛ばせるし、ドラゴンは止めた。でもドラゴンは2個取ってて、 別にレートゲームを劣ってる感じもないし、全然ウェイボも強いんだよね、レートゲーム。ドラゴン2個取ってるから、無理してドラゴン取らずにドラゴン捨ててミッドタワー。アンド敵のジャングル盗んでトッププレッシャー。
Because you're not necessarily, I mean, you're using a big resource like Herald to be able to facilitate that play at all, and you get your own dragon taken away from you. The stacking is delayed at the very least for a little bit. If you want that soul, you know, now you gotta wait 5 extra minutes, which is never really a great place to be when you're a team comp that does kind of want to just keep going forward. You don't really want to feel like you have to play defensive into Lilia and Aatrox and Corki. So, you know, for GAM, I think they're going to consider this a success to be able to stop that stacking and to keep gold on priority targets.
And most importantly, more time where they just haven't felt threatened by this Jarvan and Ori yet, right? We saw one little skirmish where each ult was
バッタがギャムにはくっついてますね。勝ってるチームにあいつ乗ってるだけだけどな。
We haven't had them ever comfortably in position to do so just yet. It's allowed, more importantly, Levi, I want to highlight catching up here as he takes his reset. This should be him locking in a second item. Haunting Guy's mask coming off the board. Yep, and there's the Riftmaker. So Levi is cruising after falling so far behind early.
Yeah, I mean, Levi and Kiaya, the two players we highlighted as being the pillars, the rocks for GAM over the course of the past few years, really a lot of this team's history, you know, those two kind of being the key pieces. They are the ones who are going to need to step up in this game alongside Artemis to get GAM over the hump of a Weibo gaming team that everybody kind of faced.
Lilia 2個は
Well, Weibo were behind the 8 ball. They're down 1K, you know, 1.5K gold right now in terms of the game state, and I don't necessarily think things get, you know, a ton easier for them as things go along as long as GAM plays it well. So they need to start getting their foot on the gas as quickly as possible and make sure that they're not giving over free resources. No objectives on the map right now to prepare for, so you at least have a little bit more time to get to those second item spikes if you're, you know, TN, or, you know, obviously get a little bit more gold under you if you're Crisp, but it's all really under the assumption that Otacon is not going to be forced, which you can never really be sure of in an LPL game.
Yep. All right, Cayman. I was about to helpfully remind you that we're talking about an LPL team who are cripplingly addicted to
隠れてウルト狙う。当たってないオリアナのウルト。ポッピーが一人飛ばしてルシアンのウルトギリフラッシュアウトできた。捕まるか。ノックアップは入んないけど、これは逃げれそうじゃないか。リリアの HP 削ったんで、リリアが来れないという判断でアタカン触る。エートロが止めに行きます。
I've missed you, LPL. Oh, they've learned. Weibo have learned. We're not gonna flip our entire game over to Otacon. We do
エートロの TP で止めましたね。
Problem is now, how confident are GAM feeling right now? They don't really have any ultimates on their side either, so I think GAM esports are just happy to kind of make sure nobody's dancing with Otacon.
オリアナもホライゾンフォーカス。最近このアイテムがまた人気になってきてるね。視界くれるのがまあでかいよな。
Credit to them for at least looking for opportunities to get themselves back in the game. Right now, the important thing is making sure that
あかりはストームサージ初手。バースト。プロトベルトとかじゃないんだね。
Really nice pickup overall, and now your damage has really come through. I'm not going to pretend like they're, you know, full on, you know, ahead or better in anything like that. I think their mid game comp is relatively equal in terms of the strength, and you know, GAM I think plays well in the late game, but it's all about execution now. Death Bush at least set in place.
Oh, but it looks like Kiaya will sniff it out. It's still Weibo though, with control towards this Otacon and really starting to threaten the mid lane. The Bammer grubs on the side of Weibo. They've got Breathe here on the turret. The bell is ringing, GAM. Who's going to come answer it?
ポッピーがウルトでジャーバン飛ばすけどポッピーが出れない。ポッピーが死ぬ。でもオリアナのウルト使ったからな。うまく戦えればギャムもある。
It's really hard for GAM to push any fight without Elio. You can see the power of this Poppy engage starting for GAM as he drops, the only one in the fight. They're going to TP in a bit late.
Oh, they want
and
this.
Weibo are more than happy to get back out here. Kia trying to force something with TM flag and drags out. Chris trying to slow everybody through. Elio on the respawn, just too little too late.
Huge win there for Weibo to get themselves to soul point. That's exactly what you need.
デバイス触る。ドラゴン取られて相手がリコールするってことでアタカン触る？そんな早いわけじゃないしな。
Tien trying to find a way in. The Otacon down below 3K. He's going to have to go for the steal here or just give it over to Levi, who smites home the Otacon.
どうだ？エイトラが耐えて裏から明かりがやってくる。
Proved to be pivotal on the flank. Not a flight, kits down Kia. Artemis is out of mana. Gets trapped to the Cataclysm, has to flash himself back out. Light can't find him down, but he's going to go after Elio as they do drop Breathe. Levi picks up that kill. Slow lanes for Chris. They're looking to chase down further as off-screen Tien does find the kill onto Artemis. Levi gonna be able to run out thanks to the Cloud Soul map, but now they want to go after Aris. They're both members, they're both the most mobile members of GAM are being chased down, but Chris lands himself another big Q for the slow. Shroud at least hides Aris as he does use the flash to get away. GAM get the Otacon, but they sacrifice the entirety of their gold lead to do so, as well will look to flip the script on that one, knocking down the mid-tier 2 turret.
Once again, in a game with an LPL team, Otacon continues to be bait as GAM throw away their entire lead to acquire it. We're going to get a replay here. It's well done by Levi to make sure that he can get this in the first place, but Kia has to take so much damage and burn so many resources just...
エイトラの HP がそもそもめちゃくちゃ低かったな。
All of a sudden, your big gold lead that you had generated on him in the top lane is completely useless because he cannot play this. He's immediately taken down by Light and by Tien as soon as this fight goes awry. Now, Levi is able to pick off Breathe on the top end of this fight, but basically nothing else is going well. Artemis is getting 1v1 by a Jarvan on the bottom side of this. It actually ends up being quite close, but still definitely in favor of Weibo, and now it's their turn to control the map. This is a good state for them to be in. Specifically, you're looking at a 1.2k gold lead now for Oriana.
Oh, Tien!
Oh, no, Tien!
My God, he tried to throw your lovely words for the Weibo squad out the window just like that. Cataclysm's a quirky under a tier 3 turret. And that goes full breaks for Weibo. Tien's gonna have to heal up. He does have a lot of camps to cycle through and a red buff, but again, want to see that Cataclysm and Shockwave paired together despite Weibo making this comeback, getting back ahead.
ルシアン3コアか。
Bread and butter of their comp has yet to really come to fruition.
ミッドタワーもねえし、ギャム前に出れないっすね。
This combo is so specific and you don't really have a ton of other ways to make it work. You don't really have that secondary engage tool other than potential Scion. Elio looking on Light though.
フラッシュイン
First stun gets the knockup. Light is out. That is huge. Elio can't kill off Light this time. Aris over the turret. Also not going to find Light. He backs away comfortably. So that's Keeper's verdict down. Aris out of position. Tien forces him to use that first dash of the purple.
ギャムはこれといったエンゲージがねえからな。フォーカスがしづらいよね。
Yeah, this is a lot burned from GAM. No clue if it's going to turn into something. Still a minute and a half away from that soul, Cloud Soul for Weibo. So you do have some time to get a lot of your resources back up, but once again, it's Weibo just doing a better job of executing in these fights. And I think that's the most important thing is when you talk about two drafts that both have ways to be able to play the game, if one of these teams is just posturing more aggressively, or if the engages that one of these teams goes for, you know, GAM in this case, if all they do is, you know, put everything into Light and he survives, and that's your game plan, then of course things are going to go a bit, you know, awry. It's not going to work out as much. I think GAM is being too impatient. They need to start setting things up a little bit better. Specifically, Aris needs to take better flanks onto these fights. He is constantly out of position here.
And they rely so much on this Akali to alleviate the front-to-back pressure that Weibo bring. But we talk a lot about the Oriana builds. It's been a huge hot topic of discussion in competitive play. You mentioned the Roa build. He now gets the Roa fully stacked. I don't think a decap is very far away for here for XIAOHU. So again, I want to stress it. If TN or Breathe can set up a huge shockwave here for XIAOHU, he's at the scale point on this champion where that shockwave can really be the game maker for Weibo.
One good shockwave and this game is entirely over, genuinely. That's how easy it would be here if you can get that either on top of TN, on top of Crisp, on top of whoever. You know, on nobody, it doesn't really matter. As long as he can land that on a priority target like Artemis or like Levi, all of a sudden the entire game just falls out the window. They have that kind of advantage right now on the map.
4ドラが湧いたけど。
It has to be the thing that they fight over here if they can.
キャッチ狙う。コーキーがフラッシュがあるけど。
It's a huge kill to give up with no ults used except
4ドラが。
Now how do GAM even argue that they can try to contest this Cloud Soul without their AD carry? There's no way to do so. It's Levi that takes a reset. They're giving this up.
I mean, it's a massive mistake. I mean, a game-losing mistake there from Artemis, who ends up going down. He had a lead early on in this game, just couldn't quite hold on to it, and that's Cloud Soul now acquired by Weibo. Baron is on the map as well. They can at the very least start to set up around
エンゲージがないからな。
on the respawn time before this AD carry means that
ウ
get to get whatever they want on the map until then.
ェーブ押されて視界取られてキャッチされて4ドラ取られちゃった。
Classic picturesque flash multi-man lilting lullaby is gonna have to be the option, but that's gonna have to be the saving grace here. Hold on, they might have liked trying to chase down Kiaya completely out of position. He at least flashed
ニコじゃねえ誰だ今ルシアンか。
and Alex with the turn with the culling. Crisp is here as well. They get the snare onto Levi. Shockwave's only gonna find Elio as Levi goes into the stasis. Kiaya's in front of Light. They get rid of Elio. RS off towards the flank side. They're really trying to get Light killed off here, but he survives for way too long. Lilting lullaby comes across the end, goes for the dunk down. Then Dragon drags out. Smooth operator TN just said bye-bye GAM Esports. That's gonna dust the game off at 31 minutes. They've got the wave to walk him down.
いやなんかファーストピックコーキーでよくわかんなかったね。オリアナ、ジャーバンどっちも取れて。やっぱり強えや。
Early game may have been a bit wonky here from Weibo. Give up some kills that they definitely could clean up, but a team that has been marred by their map mistakes in the LPL and wacky decisions looked much more clean in the two latter halves of the game. Unless I jinx them right here, because they don't have a wave. No, there's Elio down. It's Aris that spawns in 10 seconds. This is
さすがに終わるかな。
It took the ASI for them to finally show it, but their first game in, a clean mid to late game, executing a comp that had a low bar to clear, and they're 1-0 up against GAM Esports.
Weibo Gaming showing up and doing what they're supposed to.
中国6位とはいえ強いわな。